15 ayes and 1 absent.
Excellent. Thank you. There are no public comments scheduled for today, so we'll move on to item 5, and that's the Executive Director's Report. Before Leanne begins, let me, and on behalf of all the directors, congratulate you on being named the Transportation Woman of the Year recently by the Women in Transportation. It's obviously very well deserved, and you're always our Woman of the Year in Transportation around here. But she gave a great presentation to an absolutely jam-packed ballroom of the Union League Club last week. But congratulations, it's well deserved, and we're very, very proud of you.
Thank you. Can you echo those sentiments to my kids, because they would not agree?
And it was cute. Susan Masal, Leanne is her own person and has her own words. But I love Susan, our public relations person, who said, "And make sure to tell your husband that you love him." So she got Leanne to do that in public.
Oh my!
So that's good work, Susan. Thank you.
Anyone who knows me, I don't do warm and fuzzy very well, so that's not really my trademark. But I did, and I meant it. So moving on to the Executive Director Report, where we always begin. As of today, we are owed $230.6 million by the state of Illinois, and the board had asked us to kind of keep a running tab on what the carrying cost, essentially, of carrying that short-term debt. And we're just north of $1 million year to date in terms of floating monies to cover that lag in payments to us. So a little bit more on the state budget. No state budget, I guess I should say, which is nothing new to anyone. The General Assembly, though, is no longer meeting on a weekly basis. The next scheduled meeting for them is October 20. The RTA has also been informed that we will, for the first time, essentially not receiving a small portion of tax monies that we normally receive from the state on a monthly basis. We've been notified that we will, what we receive is a small portion of the statewide use tax, and we've been notified that we won't be receiving that starting in November. That, on average, every month totals anywhere from $3 to $3.5 million. It's not going to break the bank, but it starts to keep adding into the mix. And what we're very closely watching is this just a beginning of things to come. So we'll stay closely monitoring that, and we continue to work with legislators and others as these issues progress. Additionally, this month because we have, this past month, we received several kind of catch-up payments from the public transportation fund monies that come to us from the state, and so that's another reason why the lack of the use funds coming to us won't have as much of an initial impact on us. But, as I said, in the future, this is something we will definitely be monitoring and will really have to impact us. The sales tax revenue to date, including the revenue generated through the RTA imposed sales tax, is still being received, so we are able to float there. And the state continues, as I said, to make payments from the Public Transportation Fund, and that also includes the ASA, AFA skip bond reimbursement payments. So to date, but as I said, we continue to watch and monitor and see how that progresses. Looking to Washington, not much more news. No, actually, there is a little bit more news on the Washington front. The surprise resignation of Speaker Boehner took literally everybody off guard and has sort of sent Congress into a little bit of a disarray. But he has agreed to stay on until his replacement has been elected. The transportation bill that we talk about every month, though, has sort of surfaced as, sorry, that was a bad use of words, risen as an item that there seems to be some consensus building around to try to advance a bill. We have been informed that House T&I will actually do a markup beginning October 22nd, which is just next week. which is well-timed because several of us from the Illinois Transit delegation are heading to Washington next week, and we will be there making the rounds to sort of stress these issues and continue to sort of beat the drum, us with our transit partners, CTA, Metra, and PACE. One of the things that all signs out of what we're hearing from Washington is that the way to pay for this, or the pay-fors as they refer to it, will probably be very similar to what the Senate passed earlier this year. So what that really means is it could be a 6-year bill with only 3 years of pay-fors, which would be interesting and kind of a first. But we'll see how all this plays out. There's very likely, though, to have to be an extension through December to sort of get us all through this. Moving on to positive train control. Many of you have probably picked up some media discussions about PTC, as it's referred to in short. The rail network across the country is faced with a end-of-year, December 31st deadline for being in compliance in delivering positive train control, which is a safety mechanism set up across the entire rail network. There is, and much of the conversation has been around, much of the country cannot actually be fully in compliance with that deadline by the end of the year. And the Federal Railroad Administration, the Government Accountability Office have also previously recommended an extension to that deadline. That concept of a deadline extension is being supported by most of the Illinois delegation as well. This will be another topic for us to be talking about when we're out in Washington. Both Metra and Amtrak have reported that they will not be able to comply with that deadline. Although they are making very good progress, they just won't be fully in compliance. Metra's legal analysis has concluded that the railroad will be unable to legally operate December 31st if that extension is not passed. Additionally, if beyond sort of just that legal requirement, the fines that are in the current legislation that would be imposed on them should they actually operate would just be devastating to the organization. So not just Metra, but freight railroads, the Class 1 freight railroads across the country, Amtrak, and many of the commuter railroad networks have all said that they, will probably have to shut down if Congress does not pass that extension. So it's a very real issue. There is a lot of discussion, I will say, going on with federal railroads and Congress on trying to advance that extension. So we'll see how that plays out over the next few months, and we will absolutely keep you posted. Additionally, on the federal agenda, I mentioned we were at the annual APTA National Conference in San Francisco. We hosted with our Getting America to Work coalition an annual update. We tend to pull everybody together when they're all together at that conference, and really did a very in-depth discussion and briefing on the legislative state of affairs in Washington and opportunities for our coalition to sort of come together and continue to lobby over the next couple of months, or next actually a couple of weeks, on the federal transportation bill. We also got a great presentation from Jim Wunderman, CEO of the Bay Area Council, who has been a member of him and Caltrain are members of the coalition and have been very active with their congressional members and sort of teaching us some of the lessons learned and the things that they've been successful with in lobbying legislators. And we continue to do that. As also was alluded to at the conference, there was a lot of discussion about sort of obviously the pending federal transportation bill, as well as technology and innovation and how they're going to be impactful in the transportation network going forward. A couple of items that I just wanted to update the board on. Yesterday, CMAP and the Regional Metropolitan Planning Organization announced the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program of projects for 2016 through 2020. The RTA is going to receive some of those funds. Those funds are actually essentially sort of a small capital fund that we manage and work directly with local municipalities and others in what we call access to transit improvements. So it's the the small improvements that, say, neither a transit agency or in many cases sometimes the city highway department wouldn't necessarily be engaged with, things like sidewalks, curb ramps, pedestrian head signals that you can see pictured in some of those things. And generally those monies end up being pushed through to local municipalities, but we get sort of the block grant of money and then work with the local municipalities to actually plan and allocate and invest in those improvements. Related to that, actually, we're going to be hosting a workshop partnering with the Chadwick Institute at DePaul on November 20. That'll highlight important aspects of the corridor-level access to transit and the planning associated with that. We talk about some really good examples of some of those projects that have been completed to date, and there'll be presentations from RTA, Metro Pace, the Village of Niles, and Rolling Meadows, and some of the work that they've done as a way to sort of educate municipalities on how to think sort of beyond just I want a bus or I want a train, and some of the improvements that really need to really go hand in glove with a lot of those investments. And then we are also, in September, you recall that we released the community planning projects for 2016 that we proposed, those 10 projects. They were out for public comment over the past month. We did receive just one public comment, and that was in support of the Jeff Park project. Staff will be moving forward with those, each of those projects. The total program, as we've mentioned before, is approximately $884,000, which is funded by a combination of some RTA funds, Federal Unified Work Program funds, as well as the local municipalities or local entities providing matching funds. If there is a need for any additional funds, that we would actually program those in the 2016 budget. And as we've explained to the board before, a full description of all those projects is available on our website. As all of you know, we are in the thick of the budget planning process for our 2016 budgets. And this is an announcement and a release of the 2016 public hearing schedule for across our entire six-county region. This year, again, we are jointly partnering with Metro to host those meetings across the region. All of the hearings will run from 5 to 8 p.m. The RTA will also host an additional or a final meeting December 3rd here that will run from 4 to 6 p.m., which is really the representation of the full consolidation of all the four agencies' budgets into one, and that will be held, as I said, in December. And I encourage you to, this will be on our website. We will be utilizing other mechanisms to get the word out, but I encourage any of you who, in your conversations with people, to highlight these hearings, and I encourage people to attend and provide input. Additionally, I think all of you recall that the RTA is also required to present the regional consolidated budget at each of the 6 counties to the county boards. And this is the schedule for each of those. That information will also be publicly available, and we will make presentations on the consolidated budgets. In many cases, each of the service boards, appropriate service boards that provide service in those counties, also have to present directly to the county boards, and in as many cases as we can, we try to coordinate each of those, so we're sort of talking at the same time. That doesn't always work out based on everybody's schedules or the county board's preference, but that's generally what we typically do. And I know some of you have signed up to actually join us in your respective counties as we make those presentations. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Yes, Director Lewis.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment on last month on the 22nd, after our board meeting, which took place prior to that. Leanne Redden and the other 3 executive directors came before the Business Leadership Council. Also, Nadine Lacombe was there, and Arnold Crater. Did a fantastic job of making a presentation before that group. The group was very pleased with the information and the dialogue back and forth. So just wanted to publicly comment and congratulate Leanne and the other EDs for the fine job that they did, and the feedback we've gotten has been very, very favorable.
Great. No, thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else in this part of the board meeting for Leanne? If not, we'll move on to item 6, and that's the approval of a consent item as it appears on our board agenda, it's 6A, it's the ordinance with the IGA, it's in IGA with the City of Chicago to co-locate the RTA customer service functions in the 4 city sites as Michael explained earlier. Are there any additional questions? Anything else, Michael, we need to add, or Leanne? If not, can I have a motion? Director Ross moves we approve item 6A, seconded by Director Pang. Is there leave for the attendance roll call? Seeing no objection, leave is granted.
15 ayes and 1 absent.
There you go. Thank you. It is approved. Item 7 is the approval of contract and procurement items as they appear on the board agenda. The first one is 7A, an ordinance authorizing a contract for commercial banking services. B, you want to say anything on this?
Yes, I could give you a little background.
Thank you.
We've used the same bank and bond trustee services banks for approximately 18 years. We went through a competitively bid process. There was a team of 6 evaluators. We had 8 responses for the commercial banking services, 5 responses for the bond trustee. There are 3 finalists selected from each of those. We had an extensive, originally a pre-bid conference, and the 2 final banks that are noted in your package, U.S. Bank will be handling the bond trustee services, and Fifth Third, will be handling the commercial banking services. Both will result in significant savings. And that's pretty much all I have to say about both of those.
Great. Any questions? If not, can I have a motion and a second? Our motion, Director Lewis moves we approve the ordinance authorizing a contract for commercial banking services, seconded by Director McGallis. Is there leave for the attendance?
Excuse me, Chairman, are we doing both contract items together?
Let's do them separately, Audrey. So
Okay.
this is for 7A on the banking services. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. And it'll
15
be
ayes and 1
reported
absent.
Like that. 7B is the ordinance authorizing a contract for bond trustee services. Again, B, if you want to just give us a little background.
The comments that I made related to both. For this one, though, there were 5 respondents. Again, 3 finalists selected, and 3 set for further review. And then the winning bid was the U.S. Bank, and again, significant savings.
Great, thank you. Any questions? If not, can I have a motion, or let's just have the same, Director Melvin move, seconded by Director McGallis, that we approve the ordinance in 7B on our agenda. Can I have leave for the attendance roll call on that as well? Seeing no objection, leave is granted, and Audrey, that'll be 15 to 0 also.
15 and 1. 15
to 1. Okay. Thank you. And item 8A is a resolution setting the 2016 RTA meeting dates. Any questions or comments on that, other than to emblazon them in your calendar? And again, I can't thank you enough. I've been the chairman for a little more than a year, and basically we have, even through Director Friga's brief illness, and we're great you're here, John. He even called in from, I believe, a hospital room once. So I thank you all, for basically our near perfect attendance, and it's great. And we even sit through each other's committee meetings, which is spectacular. So I thank you all, and emblazon these dates in your calendar, as I will. So can I have a motion to set these meeting dates? It's a resolution. Director Anderson moves that we approve this resolution, seconded by Director Friga. Can I have the attendance roll call as our roll call on that? Seeing no objection, leave is granted, and Audrey, that resolution is approved.
15 ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you. New business. There any new business to come before the board? If not, I'll remind us that our next scheduled meeting date for the RTA Board is Thursday, November 19th, starting with committees at 8:30, followed by the board meeting. And then item 10 is executive session. And Nadine, can you remind us why we go into executive session, please?
Microphone.
Pursuant to subsections 2C, 5, 6, and 7 of the Open Meetings Act, with the board's approval, we will adjourn from executive session. We'll be covering items such as real estate options and the sale of securities.
Great. Thank you. We will, there will be no further business conducted, so we'll go into executive session. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Director Trione that we adjourn, seconded by Director Totten, and all those signify by moving into the executive session, and we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.